It's kind of loud in here. Do you want to maybe go someplace quieter? I have a car.
You're old enough to drive?
I'm old enough to do a lot of things.
I'm on a budget, Sandy.
What?
I can't afford you.
I'm not a hooker.
Oh, then I really can't afford you.
Seriously, I work at the auto parts store.
What I mean is the cheapest woman tends to be the one you pay for.
All right. Check 1, 2, man. The Fat Max, the Big Michael, full of phys ed, man. With my co-host, man, Tony Dreamer, Zatoichi, nigga Fuchsius, Magneto. The wait is over. You know, we've been out doing, real world things. I want to shout out to everybody that's been checking in on me. Yeah, I'm still alive, bitches. I'm still alive and kicking. Been handling, like I said, real world situations, real world business, and getting my health together, man. And before we start the show, man, let me go ahead and give a shout out to my man, O'Shea Duke Jackson. He just recently had his Negro Manosphere Awards. And, of course, Max City Limits Radio Show won Best Podcast, pre-recorded podcast. And I appreciate the love, man. I appreciate the props that he gave a brother, man. You know what I mean? So, big up to him from me and Tony for giving us that respect, man. And I'm still waiting on my plaque, nigga. He doing big things. I thought it was just some Rudy Poot nigga shit, man. But he's sending out plaques. You know what I mean? As soon as I get it, I'm going to put it on my wall. You know what I mean? Because I do appreciate cats appreciating, the effort that me and Tony put in. So, it's a sad day. Actually, I think this was yesterday that this happened, man. My boy Tony hit me up and said, my man, they finally got him. They finally got him. And, of course, we're talking about the Bill Cosby situation, man. We've been talking about this, man. I don't know, how long have we been talking about this, Tony?
Shit. Talking about this since 2014.
2014, man. We've been talking about the injustice of it, coming down the pike. Everything that was just real grimy, real seedy, how they broke every rule and every law when it came to prosecuting Cosby, man. And they found him guilty, man. This Andrea Constand broad, man, lying through her teeth. You know what I mean? I don't know where they found this jury, but my man Tony, he's very adept at legal jargon, at legal situations and circumstances. So we're going to sit here and we're going to dial it back and we're going to give our opinion about what actually transpired. All right, Tony, go ahead and do your thing, man. What's going on?
First thing, we got to start at the beginning. When they filed charges on him, I didn't think they would, but I later found out that the district attorney, Kevin Steele, and there's a big fuck you to Kevin Steele. As we used to say back in the 80s, you get the Bozak, Mr. Steele. All right, he ran on a platform, his political platform. He ran on a platform that partly said that he was going to prosecute Bill Cosby. He actually ran on that platform. And that's very important for people to understand, how the law functions. I'll get into that a bit later, but what they did was, in order to retry Mr. Cosby, what they did, they refiled the charges. In Andrea Constand's case, I wrote about this on the Negro Manosphere. I got an article out called Why Bill Cosby is Innocent and Why It Doesn't Matter. I also uploaded it onto my YouTube page at powerandstrategy.com. I know, cheap plug niggas. Anyway, what they did in essence was they refiled the charges, arraigned him, brought him back to court. Mm-hmm. So what they did, initially, Cosby had a witness that was going to testify that Constand was lying.
Right.
Okay? Jackson, I think was her name was. I can't remember her first name, but she had been a professor or an administrator at Temple University, had been there for years, 30-some odd years. Her credibility was flawless.
Right.
And so what happened was she was going to come forward and testify that that woman had, in essence, created this to basically come up. This was a hustle for her. Mm-hmm. Well, the first judge in the first trial would not let this woman testify. He refused to let this woman testify. So in the second trial, this woman came forth and did testify, but the judge turned around, and this is the fucker in the situation. They said, okay, if we're going to let your witness testify, the defense witness testify, who they excluded the first time around, they said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let every woman testify that has ever charged Bill Cosby with anything, that has ever accused him.
Right.
Because the women that accused Mr. Cosby of these crimes, there's been no criminal trials, no criminal proceedings. There have been civil proceedings for which he settled out of court, but Mr. Cosby had not been criminally tried. Okay? So the settlement records in those cases, or the deposition transcripts, all of that stuff was sealed in their cases. So in essence, the agreements and they had to open the seal on their deposition testimonies or in order for them to testify against him here. But nobody has spoken about that either.
Right.
So what happened was, what they did, they had no physical evidence. They had nothing except her 13-year-old police report and her deposition transcripts, which was supposed to be sealed in accordance with the settlement agreement. Okay? So what they did was, after they allowed these witnesses to test, they herded them into the courtroom, allowed them to testify, and they charged him or they found him guilty. There's a particular rule of evidence.
Right.
A particular rule of evidence, and all the states have it, all the jurisdictions have it. It's called scheme or plan. What that means is that if they want to show that you committed, let's say, a robbery, what they're allowed to do, here's the linchpin, they're allowed to introduce evidence of similar conduct in other instances.
Okay.
However, under the rules of evidence, when it comes to motive, scheme, or plan, the incidents have to have some probative value to prove that, this is a pattern, this is what you do. So it has to have some probative value, and it cannot be prejudicial. It cannot prejudice the jury against the defendant.
Okay.
So what they did was, in this case, which was a violation, and his attorneys picked up on it, and I'm still at a loss. I'm trying to figure out why they didn't shut this down, why his attorneys didn't shut this down. This is what I'm confused about. But the court allowed one of which was Janice Dickinson. They allowed all these so-called alleged victims to come in and testify. In other words, they made Andrea Costin's case by what he is alleged or rumors of what he had been alleged to have done to other women. Not Costin.
Right.
Other women that he had never been criminally charged for. There had been a civil settlement in a couple of cases, but in most of those cases, they had never even seen the inside of a courtroom criminally. Now, again, there were a couple civil, but the rest of them hadn't even charged him. So this man, testimony is being given against this man under the rules of evidence, motive, scheme, or plan for something that is not on a public record, something that he's never been charged or convicted for. Nothing that he's ever been charged or convicted for. So they herded these women in with a bunch of damn accusations against him to establish his guilt in this case. And they're saying, well, he did this with them. The rationale goes, if he exhibited this conduct with them, then that means he must have exhibited this conduct here. But under the motive, scheme, or plan rule of evidence, there is a prior conviction. That's what's missing. So in other words, if I've been committed of a robbery here in the past, and I've been committed of another robbery before then and another robbery before then, you can introduce evidence of those past convictions to show that I probably did this.
Right.
The problem here is that in Mr. Cosby's case with these women, he hadn't been convicted of any of them.
Right.
Not one of them. Most of them settled out of case, and a lot of those civil suits were dismissed outright.
Right.
The federal court dismissed them outright. Even when they tried to come get him civilly, those cases were dismissed. They were thrown out on summary disposition. And the 2 or 3 that he did settle, those were the ones that were allowed to come forth and testify. So because Andrea Costin had no evidence They allowed evidence from non-existent cases and evidence from settlements that he paid out to be introduced in the court without opening or without record or mentioning that they opened that unsealed testimony through deposition transcripts to enter into the trial. That's the procedural irregularity that they broke. So I suspect his attorneys will be appealing that.
Yeah, but you said evidence, but it's really just non-evidence because basically all that stuff still just sounds like hearsay.
Well, it is. The deposition is hearsay. It's testimony given with the power and backed up and sworn, but it's still an out-of-court statement. So what you do is you have to bring that in order to qualify it. That stuff has to be asked and repeated in court because it can be used for impeachment, to impeach someone's credibility as well. So depositions are out-of-court statements or testimony, but you usually, it has a little bit more weight because there's a court stenographer, you have officers of the court there, which are the attorneys and so forth and so on. But even the attorneys have to introduce that evidence at trial by letting them, okay, this is what you testified to in a deposition testimony. They have to enter that on the record before the court, before it's introduced as evidence. So the problem here is, okay, if he has a settlement here, the question is one, was there a motion to unseal, that testimony? And was the complete deposition and were the complete records from that particular deposition entered into the record in this case? Which I'm gambling. I've looked at the record over. I saw that what they've done is they put in specific parts of the deposition testimony without explaining it in full. That is a violation of the rules of evidence too. Let me explain what I mean. If you're in the police station and you give a statement to the police and you say, well, I shot him because he pulled a weapon on me.
Right.
But the police only put into testimony, they've only put in the evidence that you shot him. They left out the part when you said when he went for his weapon.
Yeah.
That's against the rules of evidence. You have to enter the totality of the statement, not just the part that indicates the person's guilt. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Is what you're doing in essence is you're cherry picking evidence to introduce to the court, and that's also illegal. That's unlawful. And so they did a lot of that in this. That is the testimony that these women presented in open court when they testified. Andrea Costan didn't have any evidence against him. What convicted him was all these other bitches. They're like, one of which was Janice Dickinson, who recanted her so-called testimony. So why they would give that any probative value is beyond me. Now, those people that will listen to this podcast, you know that I wrote an article on the Negro Manosphere. If you didn't, go back and read it. But I guess, niggas don't read anything that doesn't have anything to do with pussy, so I guess they skipped over that.
Right.
I did an article called Court, Can I Get a Witness?
Yeah.
Court, Can I Get a Witness? On the Negro Manosphere. And I talked about how important juries are. And what I was talking about is how niggas tend to run from juries. And it results, you bitching about mass incarceration, you got the answer to your own fucking problem.
Right.
John Gotti got off. John Gotti got off because of jury nullification. The only way they convicted John Gotti, I gave the Emmett Till example, where they got a damn verdict against Emmett Till in 30 minutes. And the jury said the only reason it took that long is because they had a Coke after lunch. In Emmett Till's. And then I presented, okay, it's not just a Southern phenomenon against black people. Other people use that too. Dr. Paul Butler advocated during the OJ trial. Dr. Paul Butler is I think he's a Georgetown law professor. And he's a black attorney who advocated that black people in nonviolent property crimes, low-level drug offenses, black people should refuse to convict people on F4s, F5s, and high misdemeanors.
Okay.
As a method to stem off the inequity in the justice system. They should refuse to convict a black defendant on these cases. They call it jury nullification. I presented that with Emmett Till, and I presented it with John Gotti to make the case. Gotti was a Teflon Don because he got to the jury. Somebody on the jury got a plain manila envelope stuffed with cash. Guess what? They refused to convict him.
Right.
So it wasn't just Cutler's brilliant trial strategist, because Bruce Cutler, who was John Gotti's attorney, was brilliant. His strategist, and he was ruthless on cross-examination. So it wasn't just Cutler, it was jury nullification. So in that instance, in order to convict Gotti, what they had to do was, you couldn't know who the jury was. The jury was secret. Then they stripped John Gotti of his attorney. They wouldn't allow Cutler to represent him.
Okay.
And then they turned Sammy the Bull Gravano against him. That's when they finally got the conviction. They had to stack the deck against him. That's my point.
All right.
Jury nullifications is effective if it's used properly, but it can also be used improperly. Now, what's my point here? Now, with respect to the Cosby jury was in the reverse. All the doubt that was there, they were not going to come back with a not guilty verdict after you've had umpteen bitches roll through on cases that he's never been charged on, with testimony from depositions that are supposed to be sealed, deposition transcripts that are supposed to be sealed.
Right.
They allowed that testimony in court without an order unsealing that transcript. They allowed They allowed those women to recant those experiences under that particular rule of evidence, motive, scheme, or plan, without seeing whether it was prejudicial instead of probative. Probative means it has the ability to prove that you did in fact do it, that you probably did it. So what they did was they broke the rules of evidence with respect to allowing all them bitches to parade in court to say, oh, he raped me, he did this and he did that, when he hadn't even been charged with it. And again, most of these instances are over 20 years old.
Yeah.
So he got charged on accusations that are outside of the fucking statute of limitations. They took into consideration testimony against him that's older than their statute of limitations. They could never convict him anyway on any of the testimony, but yet they allowed these bitches to testify, and that is what swung the jury, and that's why he got convicted.
Wow, man.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why his attorneys are talking about an appeal, and then the district attorney didn't want him out of jail. Kevin Steele, who again ran on a platform of saying, I'm running on a platform partially that I will prosecute Bill Cosby. The other district attorney wouldn't do it because of lack of evidence, but I will do it. And he got elected.
Right.
You know, and so that was the point of my recent article, Why Bill Cosby is Innocent and Why It Doesn't Matter. Law is an instrument of politics. These prosecutors, judges, and public officials in the courts make their careers off of convictions. Here now is your crash course in fuckery, okay?
All right.
They make their careers off of plea agreements and convictions, which is essentially the same difference.
Right.
They make their careers. Now, if you go to the state legislature, you go to Congress, you go to senators, the two most prevalent professions in Congress, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, in the state houses of legislature, guess who they were before they got there? They were prosecuting attorneys.
Okay.
You see? So in getting Bill Cosby convicted, the man who the other district attorney would not charge or prosecute, now Mr. Steele is an untouchable in the state of Pennsylvania. Now the state belongs to him. So when he gets ready to run for governor, when he gets ready to run for senator, when he gets ready to run for Congress, when he gets ready to run for assemblyman or a representative of the district, he's a shoo-in, because guess what he's going to say? This is the man that prosecuted Bill Cosby.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? In The Godfather, there's a term they have. The gangsters have a term. You make your bones. In order to show your bona fides, in order to show that you are a true, authentic OG, in order to show that you are a true, you about that life, you got to have a history of doing dirt. You got to have a history of showing that you are really about that life that you say you're about. And one of the best ways of doing that was what they used to call killing somebody or making your bones.
Yeah.
Well, prosecutors make their bones on convictions. And people will say, well, it was racially motivated. Well, that's a part of it, but let me smoke this over. Of course, race is a part of it, but there's a bigger thing here. This is about power.
Yeah.
Profit, privilege, and power. Remember now, you remember a man by the name of Charles Manson?
Yeah.
Vincent Bugliosi convicted Charles Manson and never won another goddamn criminal case.
Okay.
He was the worst prosecutor in the history of the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office.
All right.
He was the worst one, but he got one conviction that got a lot of public attention, and that put him on the map. And all of a sudden, he became this instant celebrity. Multi-million-dollar book deals, six-figure speaking engagements, God knows how many interviews, exclusive interviews with magazines, of the most prestigious magazines across the country. Same thing with Christopher Darden and Marcia Clark. They lost the O.J. case. You see what I'm saying? The O.J. case made Johnny Cochran, but it made Marcia Clark, that white woman, got paid off of that. When she got done with the book deals, when she got done with the speaking engagements, when she got done with the interviews, that woman never had to try another case. She could retire. Christopher Darden, even the nigger, he became a defense attorney and his practice skyrocketed. Well, what happened? Geraldo Rivera brought him on MSNBC and made him a legal consultant for his show. All throughout 1995, Christopher Darden's ass was on Geraldo, and even when they weren't talking about legal issues, if they were talking about racial issues, his ass was up there.
Right.
So he made a living off of that trial. My point is the law is profitable, the law is political, and the law allows people access to echelons of power that we can probably never dream of or understand. It allows them a type of mobility to move up the line. So it could have been a black person, it could have been a white person, it could have been a Hispanic person. This is how the system works. It's just effective, or it's just terribly disastrous with black people because we're disproportionate in terms of our numbers. It affects us differently because we make up such a small percent of the population. So it affects us disproportionately. But it could be any poor white person. It could be any person, any poor person of any color. This is American justice. This is how this shit functions.
What was that?
This is how it works.
What was that white boy, man, we watched on Netflix, man, that was getting railroaded because of a so-called murder?
Serial killer, Stephen Williams.
Yeah, man, that's a good
Stephen
example
Williams.
of it, man. How
Stephen Williams.
They just kept coming at him. Just, you know what I mean? All the evidence showed in the contrary. You know
all the evidence showed that he was absolutely innocent. And then when they exonerated him, and he was coming back after them for that incarceration, and he was coming with a $36 million settlement. Well, that settlement would have basically bankrupted the county because their insurance providers, we back to the insurance companies again.
Right. The
The insurance providers or the insurance companies which insure municipalities, just like they insure people to drive, just like they insure people, a person's home, just like they insure your businesses, just like they insure your property. Well, they also insure municipalities too. They have legal insurance so that if they get hit in court, if they get a judgment in court, the policies will pay out. Well, if the insurance company has to pay out a $36 million policy on that county, they were dropped, which meant they would have had to go into their tax revenue, their operating revenue, the city's revenue to pay that judgment, and that would have literally bankrupted that county. And so what happened? Another charge came down with some suspicious-ass evidence, suspect-ass evidence. They got his retarded-ass cousin to testify to some shit that he never said, got him put back in jail. They offered him a lowball settlement after they got him put back in jail. His attorneys was thirsty for money, so what they did was he offered, or he put forth, a $36 million settlement.
Right.
But what happened was they got that shit down to like $300,000 or $200,000, and his attorneys took 70% of that, so he was left in prison having to fight another criminal case with a little more money.
What was his name again?
Stephen Williams.
Stephen Williams, and the name of the documentary was what?
I think it was Diary of a Serial Killer.
So we want you cats to go ahead and check that out, man, so that you can get a bird's eye view of the legal system, how it actually really works. Because just like Tony said, contrary to popular belief, black folks are not the only ones, getting their face put in the wood chipper. You know what I mean? This white cat, man, he's the exact opposite of a Cosby. You know what I mean? He was like poor white trash. You know what I mean? And it was just unreal how the judicial system was railroading him. Even with me and you going through our little court thing with the State of California State Franchise Board. Mm-hmm. One thing that you educated me on, because I couldn't understand how me and you had our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and we had everything like which show without a shadow of a doubt that we were in the right. The judges seem to be hesitant to really want to, give us our shine, give us our props. And you was basically talking about, well, really, none of the judges want to be seen backing this up, you know what I mean? Because it could be detrimental to their careers if it blows back in their face somehow. Yeah. So, they see two niggas coming into court, you know what I mean, doing this in pro se, you know what I mean? And they're not necessarily confident that we know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, how they not knowing how they have that sort of thought process? Aren't they supposed to know the law? Aren't they supposed to know what we're doing is, correct, right, and exact? And you was like, shit, most of the judges don't know the law.
They don't?
I was like, what?
They don't.
I'm like, seriously? So, yeah, man, I'm like, I'm looking at the whole situation with Cosby, and I'm looking at how just the judges that we was fucking with, man. It was, like I say, it was political. It was, money, it was power. It had nothing to do with the law.
Had nothing to do with the law.
They was trying their best not to give us any sort of play, any sort of shine. You know what I mean? They was going to side with the bureaucracy of the state of California if they could.
Of another jurisdiction, a foreign jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. Here it is, a foreign jurisdiction is fucking over their own citizenry. Mm-hmm. Somebody in their jurisdiction that they're bound to protect by law. They weren't concerned about the law at all. Mm-hmm. There was a great line in Jack Nicholson, the movie Hoffa with Jack Nicholson. And he went to the gangster, D'Alessandro. And he asked D'Alessandro, he said he wanted D'Alessandro to whack the guy who stabbed him in the back. Fitzsimmons, he wanted D'Alessandro to whack him because that's the guy who sold him out. And then D'Alessandro said, well, what does the law say? Mm-hmm. Jimmy Hoffa, Jack Nicholson's character, said, fuck the law, I want justice. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
There's a distinction between the law and justice. Mm-hmm. You see. And that is what is at issue in this case. The law was on the side of Bill Cosby, but he didn't get justice.
Right.
You see, and that's how in your case, they were presented with all this documentation to show what they did wrong, and then on top of it, they didn't even show up. They didn't even want to show up to court to defend it. Right. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, in spite of the fact you got this evidence, and these motherfuckers didn't show up, and then the magistrate, which is the worst kind of person to get. Because a magistrate is like a judge light. They're below the judge. Mm-hmm. They'll pick, a judge or a municipality will pick them from amongst the attorneys that are applying for the position. Mm-hmm. Judges are usually people that could not make it in private practice. Mm-hmm. Or they come from the prosecutor's office. So when they come, this shit about them being impartial, bullshit. Mm-hmm. Judges are not impartial. Juries are not impartial. The American criminal justice system is not an impartial system. It does not work that way. It works off of story, character, and narrative. In your case, they saw you coming in. They thought you were a whack job. Mm-hmm. Here you are trying to sue, the state of California. Nigga, are you crazy?
Right.
So they're thinking, okay, well, this can't be true. You have to have done something.
Right.
You were out of the way, because if you were really innocent, and this is how they think, if you were really innocent, they wouldn't have done this. As though bureaucracies can't be abusive.
Right.
As though governments can't be abusive. If you did this, if this happened, it's because you deserve. I've never lived in California my whole fucking life. Mm-hmm. No, there has to be something, because if that judgment is entered and the state of California comes in and say, what the fuck were you doing? Mm-hmm. Why did you give him this judgment?
Right.
What the fuck are you doing? And then what they do is they put it in the newspapers. Mm-hmm. And once they put it in the newspapers, you appear to be incompetent. Mm-hmm. And nothing will get a judge removed off the bench faster than the appearance of being incompetent.
Right.
So they didn't want to grant that, one, because, okay, this is a strange case, and who are these niggas, and why don't they have a lawyer?
Right.
Okay? And two, there's something here. It's something that these niggas ain't saying. Mm-hmm. They got to be guilty. It's something that they're not saying, that I can't see right now. They're only telling half the story. So if they're really innocent, it'll come out at trial. No, bitch, we want a preliminary injunction. That's why we here.
Right.
We can't wait to trial because they're violating this man. They taking this man's money without due process. That's a constitutional violation. No person can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process. That's standard state constitutional law. That's standard federal constitutional law. Hell, it's statutory. But yet, she wasn't concerned about the law.
Nope.
She was concerned about how it would make her look
Right.
if the decision was wrong.
Right.
And see, in Cosby's case, that man said he was running on a platform where he was going to prosecute. It wasn't whether Bill Cosby had actually did that. It wasn't about justice for that horse-faced hoe. It wasn't about justice. It was about fulfilling a campaign promise. Because again, if he loses, they're going to say the jury is stupid.
Right.
If he wins, he's an untouchable. When he runs for governor, senator, congressman, whatever political appointment he wants, his career is now assured for the rest of his short little life, because I think he's in his 50s. For the next 20 years, it's easy sailing. He's guaranteed re-election. They're going to give him the key to the fucking state. They're making their bones on people's misfortune.
Right.
That's how the system works. They don't give a fuck. They really don't give a fuck about justice. They don't give a fuck about justice. That's why most of the people that go to court are dissatisfied even if they win. Even if they win, they're dissatisfied. So when you step onto that playing field, you got to know what you're doing. And in Mr. Cosby's case, landing a big fish like that, I think Tariq Nasheed actually did a podcast on that. That was after my article came out and after my podcast.
Right.
He may have stolen it from me. He may have not. Let's just say we were on the same page. But anyway,
Okay.
when you take down somebody like that, look at what happened with OJ, and they lost that case. Look at what happened with Beretta.
I know you're talking about.
Him.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
Yeah.
Robert Blake.
Right.
What happened with him? His attorney was wanted. His attorney was a damn fugitive from the 70s. His attorney, the man that represented Beretta, was the man involved in the Angela Davis, George Jackson melee in San Quentin. He was on the run for years. He came back, got acquitted, became Robert Blake's attorney, and he was back in again. He was back in amongst the hoi polloi of the legal world. They forgot all that shit he did back then, trying to help niggas out, and they just welcomed him back with open arms because these celebrity trials, they make and break attorneys on both the defense and prosecution side. Now, it allows the defense attorneys to become instant millionaires. It allows the prosecutors not only access to money, but it allows them access to power. And in that system, it doesn't matter what color you are. They're going to always start with the niggas first because the niggas are the canaries in the coal mine. They're the guinea pigs. They're the crash test dummies for them to test out any new thing that they're testing. But it eventually makes its way to the white folks too.
Right.
It starts off with niggas. Why? Because you're the weakest. You're the most marginalized. You're the most vulnerable. You're the most susceptible to all type of bullshit because you don't have any way to fight back.
Well, let me ask you this. First of all, let me say that black folks in general, when this first started out, me and you were in the extreme minority. How we were basically stating, he was
getting fucked.
He was getting fucked over. But most niggas was like, "Fuck Cosby, he a rapist, he raping bitches." You know what I mean? We was like, "Damn, seriously? Ain't nobody gonna actually just like look at the evidence here?" Just like people are still thinking that this thing is about Quaaludes, man. But in this particular instance, it really was Benadryl.
In Benadryl, and even with the Quaaludes, the women actually were given the Quaaludes. They requested.
Yeah, they requested.
They took the shit with their
willingly.
Full consent, willingly, knowing what they were doing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as though he slipped it in their drink or in their coffee. They asked for it. They consented to taking the Quaaludes to fuck this man.
And that's in the deposition.
And that's in the deposition.
in the media, they, like you said, they omitted all the rest of the shit, and they just read this one little line
Quaaludes,
that just said, yes, he admitted giving women Quaaludes. And niggas and all sorts of, slow ass people, the American folks was just like, yeah, this motherfucker, man, he slipping people Mickeys, without their consent. But
what
it
they
didn't
did
say
at the
that.
trial.
Yeah.
They introduced the testimony from Laquela who was at the trial, but left out the part that it was voluntary.
Yeah, they left all that shit out, man. So big shout out to most of the black folks out here. When I'm looking at YouTube, I see a lot of brothers basically saying, "Oh, yeah, this is fucked up." You know what I mean? It's a 180 from when we first
too late
started
now,
out.
nigga.
Yeah,
It's too late now.
yeah, man.
They got you.
But also, I'd like to say that, you know, we got cats out here, these mangina ass niggas, man, who are basically co-signing this shit. And, you know, one thing that me and you did hear every now and then was, well, what's wrong, man? You know, Bill Cosby, is that your daddy? That's your hero? That's why you defending him? Once again, niggas, man, with the low IQ concepts, man, you know, they not looking at the big picture. It's like, no, it's just simple, you know, it's called due process, and you're innocent until proven guilty. And if I ever went to court, that's what I would like to happen. I would like people to see me as innocent before being proven guilty. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's like, if it can happen to Cosby, then, once again, none of you niggas are safe. So, basically, what we're doing here is, you know, this is our self-interest, man, by making sure that everything's on the up and up with Cosby. You know, by proxy, we're making sure that everything is on the up and up with us, because basically this sets a precedent.
Yep.
And, man, this is super bad, man. This is super duper bad for you niggas, man. It's like, if you're dealing with a woman, period, man, it don't matter how you dealing with her. If you pimping on a broad, guess what? You can go to jail. If you drinking on a broad, right about now, you can go to jail. If you goddamn get married to a bitch, you can end up destitute, broke, homeless, all sorts of shit like that.
And in jail.
You know what I mean? So it's a situation where it's like, look, man, once again, we're trying to mitigate our damages. We're trying to find some sort of way of dealing with these women without getting skull fucked. That's all it is. You know what I mean? So when we come out here and we was like, you know, hey, we prefer to just keep it business with chicks. You know what I mean? We prefer to just keep it business. You know, a lot of niggas was scoffing at it and shit, man. Like, oh, man, y'all niggas, man, y'all lames. I'm like, well, now look at you. You know what I mean? Now look at the present day situation where it pretty much don't matter what you do. Of course, I still think if you just keeping it strictly business with females, you're better off than most. You know what I mean? You mitigate your damages more. But, I mean, now y'all seeing the wisdom of trying to keep it business. I mean, it's to the point now where, man, you got to get a broad to sign something if you're going to fuck her. It's to the point now when you got to videotape the chick.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, man.
Let's talk reality.
Right.
Let's say it wasn't Bill Cosby.
Right.
Let's say it was some straight-laced cat making $60,000 in West Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind now, the first criminal proceeding resulted in a mistrial.
Mm-hmm.
He had the money to afford the attorneys.
Right.
He had the money to afford the attorneys
Yeah.
that would get him a mistrial. You think you gonna get by on a fucking public defender? You think you gonna get by on one of these mid-level attorneys that want to soak your pockets just as much as the bitch does? You see, you think you're gonna get by on that? Had it been your ass, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year, you wouldn't have gotten a mistrial. You would have gotten convicted. And you know what would have happened after you got convicted? If your attorney would have argued for an appeal, you know what they would have done to your ass? They would have said, yes, you can have your appeal, however, we're locking you up. Okay, well, what's my bond? Your bond is going to be $1 million. Let's get real.
All off accusations.
All off accusations. Your bond is so now, after you pay this lawyer for this case, because he's charging $100,000. Now, if you want to be free, you're gonna have to give the court another $100,000. And you know what your lawyer gonna tell you? Don't pay that bond. Go ahead and stay in jail. I know you want to be out. But it's not worth it to spend that kind of money because you don't want to send a signal that you have money. So therefore, you should just stay in and bear it. I know it's unpleasant, but you're going to have to stay the course. You're going to have to ride it out. But what he's really thinking about is that if you give $100,000 to a bail bondsman, or you give $100,000 to the municipality, that's less money that you have to pay him with.
Right.
You see, he want that money that you getting ready to give to somebody else. So what is he going to do? He's going to encourage you to keep your black ass in jail so that he can control what is in your wallet. You see, Mr. Cosby had enough money to hire attorneys that were able to obtain the mistrial, and he had enough money, despite Steele's attempts, to get his bond shot up to some astronomical number. Steele wanted his bond at like $50 million. That's what he wanted his bond to be. And the judge said, I'm not going to do that. And so when he said, well, this man has a Gulfstream, and that's when I heard that Cosby lost it. I don't have a Gulfstream, you asshole. You know, he just broke, he couldn't contain himself. Yeah, in court.
Whoa, okay.
He told him, I don't have a Gulfstream, you asshole. I don't have a plane, you asshole. Because he was trying to get his passports revoked. He was trying to get an astronomical bond so that Mr. Cosby would never make it, because he said he was a flight risk because he had unlimited wealth. You see what I'm saying? Now, if they did that to him, what would have happened had it been you making $50,000, you making $60,000, $70,000 or $100,000? Your ass would be in prison today.
Tony, you just a Cosby dick rider, man. You just a Cosby dick rider. Is that your daddy?
No, that's not my daddy.
Cosby your daddy?
No, it's not my daddy. He's not my daddy. He's not my daddy. I'm just explaining to you how this system works and how it works on motherfuckers that don't have any money. The law is a means to amass two things: wealth and power. That's how it functions. Wealth and power. When the feds come, they want time or money. That's how that system functions. And if you don't have either, if you don't have any money, you're going to give them some time.
Right.
You see. So Bill Cosby's case is important because it shows you what will happen to you now that they've gotten this shit off. And to all my tricks out there, this is a Mac City public service announcement. The hunt is on. The hunt is on. Charles Dutton said it in Menace to Society. I'm telling you that the hunt is on. Now you have to survive. So every time you fuck with a bitch, get it on tape.
Get it on tape.
Get it on tape. If you niggas can videotape hood fights, if you can videotape motherfuckers getting hit in the head with what's those things that they sometimes untighten lug nuts with on cars?
What, a crowbar?
Crowbars. if you can videotape motherfuckers getting hit in the head with crowbars, you can videotape niggas getting shot, you can videotape bitches twerking, you're going to have to start videotaping this tricking. It's the only way to stand a chance of protecting yourself. I had 3 bitches call me this week, and they said, Tony. And I said, nope. They said, but Daddy. Nope. Please, Daddy. Nope. I said, if I fuck with you, I'm going to have to record you from the second you walk through my door. I'm going to record you disrobing. I'm going to record my dick going in your mouth. And I'm going to record me skeeting in your face. Oh, you on that now? Yes, I'm on that now. That's what I'm on. I said, because if they can get Bill Cosby, they could get anybody. Tony, you tripping. You ain't Bill Cosby. No, and you ain't Andrea Costan. Either you going to agree to get on camera, bitch, or I'm hanging up this phone.
Or at least, man, turn the camera on and just quiz and be like, do you consent to having sex with me? Yes. Are you under any sort of drugs, any sort of influences? Did she have to say no? At least something. It's getting that bad where you're going to have to actually quiz these bitches and get them on tape.
No. You got to have, there has to be the picture with you with nut on you. I don't care if it's on your face. I don't care if it's on your titties. That encounter is being taped because I I want you to have an incentive not to want to take this thing. And what the fuck did you do? Look at what you did. What did they call saying? It's a lot of bitches that call and threaten you. I'm gonna sue you. I'm gonna call the FBI. One bitch even said she was gonna call the FBI. And she was gonna call the state police. And then she thought about it. He got film of me with his dick in my mouth. He got film of him skeeting in my face. He got all these films of me doing all this fucking. So now if I go tell on him, if I plan some fuck shit or I try some fuck shit with him, all of Dayton gonna know. And you imagine how unhinged that bitch became when two niggas start calling her Xena the warrior princess?
Man,
you didn't hear how visceral that bitch was on the phone. She was down, and that was two niggas.
Right.
Can you imagine what would happen if the whole city knew? Because see, when you do a lawsuit, it's public record.
Right.
So now I got to show everybody that you fucking, and it's free. They ain't even got to pay to get it through the website. They could come downtown. It's now public record, bitch. It's a DVD, and it will cost. I guarantee you, it will cost a lot less than what I'm charging on that website. So I'm gonna lose money,
right?
And everybody gonna lose. You gonna lose a reputation. What little you got left.
Right.
Ain't no nigga ever gonna want to fuck with you again on some type of straight level, because all of them gonna want you to take a shot to the grill, because you know what they saying. You let that fat nigga do it. You let that fat nigga get that shit off. Why I can't get it off? You see what I'm saying? So you once again 10 years ahead of the curve. He has shown you the light. You every nigga, every trick. I'm talking about power tricks. This is a message to my power tricks. This is a message to my mutant power trick brethren. The war has started. Who will you stand with? Who will you stand with? When they come, and they will come, and they have come, who will you stand with? You get you a cell phone. You record all of that shit. You record, not just her consent. Don't stop at her consent. Because she can say, well, I consented initially, but I changed my mind when he wanted to cut the phone on. And we wound up fucking anyway. Never underestimate the depth of human evil in a woman at a given point when she is desperate. That's the lesson I learned when Mac used to tell me, say, Mac, they want to see, what the fuck are you talking about? No, I do not want to talk to these bitches, nigga. Like, just talk to, nigga, are you crazy? No, I do not want to talk to these hoes. Now I know why he don't want to talk to these hoes. Now I understand why he don't want to be, because again, when they are desperate,
they're not rational.
They're not rational.
You can't have a conversation with an irrational bitch, man. It ain't gonna happen.
It ain't gonna happen.
Here we have a chick, man. Most of them, them been doing this hustle, this porn, and this pimping, man, for like decades. And then all of a sudden, when it come to light, everybody knowing what they was doing. Now all of a sudden, they trying to make a Bill Cosby accusations. He forced me. He tricked me. He drugged all sorts of shit. But bitch, I got your John Hancock on 5, 6 different documents. I got your pictures. I got your videos. Hell, I even got you recruiting bitches, bringing bitches to me. You know what I mean? So it's just like, man, how am I going to have a conversation with a bitch that did all this shit, then all of a sudden she want to do a 180 and flip on me? Why would I even entertain a conversation with a bitch like that, man? I ain't got time for that shit, man.
This is why, because you probably would have gotten a criminal case out of it. Because they probably would have said, well, I went over there to talk to him and he raped me. You see what I'm saying? That's probably what would have happened. So what I'm saying to you out there, to all my power trick mutants, the hunt is on. You're the prey. Survive. Record everything. Record everything. Get it in writing if you can, but record you must. You need proof, because now you are the prey. If you have any financial means, I'm not talking to Pookie and Ray Ray, because those niggas are not going in. They're already in the system, either through child support or through any of that fuckery that they do in the community. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the niggas that got something to lose.
Right.
Those are the niggas I'm talking to on this podcast. I talked about side trick agreements for the bitches. Now I'm talking about side trick agreements for you. because you're going to need them. You're going to need side trick agreements and plenty of video, plenty of pictures, because you need to be able to create this little thing called reasonable doubt. If Mr. Cosby would have had video, if he would have had the wisdom of the fat man, he probably would not have gotten convicted.
Shit, and that's a crazy thing, man, because, you know, the females are still around, man, you know, and I'm not malicious with it or whatever, but I think in the back of their minds, I think one of the main things that shielded me from stupid shit is the fact that they know that I got all of this shit on deck, man, just in case shit pop off and go south. Like, man, you know, they don't want to open up that Pandora's box. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I crossed my T's and dotted my I's, bitch. You know what I'm saying? When you come fucking with me, that's why I kept a business with you. Because I seen how you flip on niggas. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, of course, I would like to think that my babies would never cross me. But what me and you always say, it's not that I don't trust you, bitch.
I can't afford
can't afford to trust you. You know what I'm saying?
Can't afford to.
You know, so that's the thing. And we're going to get a little conspiratorial here, man, because a lot of cats is thinking that all of this shit is just happenstance or it's by accident, how they keep elevating the woman, right? And how they just keep putting their thumb on the back of the man's neck all through society, through the court system. Man, and this... I'm trying to tell y'all, man, this shit is by design. All my studies in so-called New World Order lore, right? I'm thinking, you know, if I was the aristocracy or if I was modern-day royalty and I wanted to go ahead and maintain my power and my prestige and my control over a society, you know, they tried it the overt way with the iron boot. You know what I mean? And that always leads to uprisings and rebellions. And I think they've smartened up to the point where once again, they're using the woman as a Trojan horse, you know, Trojan horse warfare. And like you always say, they're using these broads out here in the streets as suicide bombers, man, to go out here and just blow up society, man. You know what I mean? So once again, we always talk about how they have inverted the family. They have put the children above the parents. They're putting the woman above the man. And, you know, they're using the woman basically as a destabilizing agent. And, of course, it started first in the black communities, but now this is also filtering into the white communities as well. Yeah. And so if you want to maintain your power and your control and you want to stop uprisings, and you have to kill masculine energy. You know what I mean? And also, you have to have some way to put it in check. And they're using the woman as a buffer, as a firewall to check the masculine energy. You know what I mean? They're saying, you know, you can't do anything without the consent or the say-so of a woman. And just the words and the accusations of a woman can destroy you. You know what I mean? This is putting men in a emotional state of terror, if you will, man. It's like no matter what you do pertaining to women, there's a chance, man, you can end up fried. No matter what you do with a woman. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't think this is just by happenstance. I don't think this is just an accident. I think this is social engineering, how the oligarchs are maintaining control of the society by using women to basically put men in check and basically keep men broke, keep men destabilized, you know what I mean, and to basically siphon off the masculine energy that would quell up a uprising to overthrow our present-day masters, so to speak. So I don't know what you think about that.
I got one thing to say, but there was a book or pamphlet out called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars.
Exactly.
And it talks about this type of division where you're creating these huge fissures and cleavages in society, where you have people fighting against each other to maintain rule, to maintain your control, to maintain order. Because in the final analysis, to the ruling elite, justice is not as important as order.
Right.
Order is more important than justice. People get it twisted. They think justice and order is the same. It is not. No. Justice and order is not the same thing. So, again, what I'm telling you cats out there, when I'm talking to my mutant power trick brothers, get it on film. Get it on paper. Get it on film. Get it from the blowjob to the money shot.
It's about to get bad.
Get it on film because now you are a target. Now, if you have any money, if you're a man of means, you're going to be the first ones. Not the first one. You're going to be the next ones on the guillotine. You're going to be the next one marched to the gallows. You're going to be the next one prosecuted because now you're food. A lot of times when we talk about tricking and we talk about the welfare system, we always told y'all that there was another side to it because now even though you're put in that role, now they see you as a way to come up. Now they see you as prey. You're like food to them because to the ones that are really slick, they could use that shit if you're not careful. They will reverse engineer that shit and blackmail you if you are not swift enough to understand the 48 laws of power tricking. Understand what type of female you're dealing with. Do not underestimate her propensity for malicious and treacherous conduct at any given point. Do not sleep on that shit because it is totally probable. I won't say possible. It is totally probable. So you must understand who you're dealing with. You must have a system of dealing with them. Some women you can't trick with constantly. All of this was covered in the 48 laws of power tricking. But what I'm telling you is at this point, you are now less safe. That verdict yesterday made every man, whether he be whether they call him an educated lame, whether they call him a beta male, whether they call him a non-select male, whether they call him a lame, whether they call him a geek, or whatever pejorative they want to use, if you are a man of means, you are now less safe than you were before. None of you niggas, we've said that ad nauseum. This time, it's real. None of you niggas are safe. Nobody is safe. Protect yourself because the hunt is on and you're the prey.
From 20-year-old accusations with no proof, you can end up 10, 20, 30 years in prison. Boy, I'm trying to tell you. And let me also kind of talk about the Pookie and Ray Ray joint. Cause shout out to my boy Goku's son, man. He wanted us to talk about the Pookie and Ray Ray shit, and this kind of ties into it. Of course, me and you have done a plethora of Pookie and Ray Ray shows, man. You know, when we're talking about thugs and so-called alpha males and all of this shit, man. We've done tons of shows on that. But let me just be clear about this shit, man. This when we talking about Bill Cosby and when we talking about how we, keep the business with bitches and we tricks with them and shit, man. And then in that same vein, we tell brothers to be careful, man. Some people feel like, oh, you talking crazy about the women's and, you just mad because ain't no bitches giving you no pussy and you talking bad about the Pookies and the Ray Rays. First of all, understand this. When we talk about the Pookies and the Ray Rays, it ain't about us being mad or salty about them fucking bitches, man. I done had enough pussy for 5 lifetimes, man. I don't mean shit to me, man. When we talk about the Pookie and the Ray Ray, we also intertwine that with the Shaquita, with the hood rat. You know what I mean? We talking about the culture. We're not talking about it from the aspect that we're jealous of this nigga fucking this many bitches. Who gives a fuck about that, man? You know what I mean? We talking about low IQ, fucked up, hood rat, Pookie and Ray Ray culture, man. You know what I mean? And we not gonna keep cleaning up after these niggas, man. You know what I mean? And basically we talking about this Cosby shit. We talk about this Pookie and Ray Ray shit. The bottom line is, no, you go ahead and interject.
Well,
man.
What I was going to say is I'm at war with this idea that that's the ultimate form of black masculinity.
Okay.
That's bullshit to me.
Right.
James Evans is no less masculine than Sweet Daddy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But this concept or this idea where this man is the ultimate form of black masculinity, that's a fucking joke. And here's the killing part. Them niggas know that's a joke.
Right.
They know that shit. They know that they're not the ultimate form of masculinity. But you have people around here when they talk about black males or black male sexuality, they're not talking about the James Evans. They're not talking about the Julius Rocks. They're not talking about, that's what I'm at war with. Because I'm going to get real with you. I'm going to tell you, I have never made it a secret. I got 75. I'm going to go in my pocket.
Right.
But I'm going to go in my pocket with reason. I'm going to go in my pocket with intelligence. And I'm going to go in my pocket with resolve. You're not going to do and say anything to me and then do business with me. Why? Because you can't do that shit when you go out there shopping in those stores with those merchants. You can't go in there and shit in their floor and think you're going to take a box of Cheerios home. Nah, they calling the police on your ass. Right. And they throwing you in jail. You see what I'm saying? There is a standard to doing business. There is a specific conduct that you exhibit when you're doing business with someone. And if you do that with me, you're going to observe that conduct. And the foremost ideal principle, the foremost principle involved in our business relationship is respect. If there's no respect, if you find that you can't respect me because I'm going in my pocket, get the fuck on, because I'll be able to get pussy faster than you can get money. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So that's my sole advantage in this relationship. So when I tell cats, when we talk about tricking, or when we speak about, or we speak up for tricking, we speak that it's the path of least resistance. It's more efficient. Mm-hmm. It's more economic than going through all that other fuck shit. It's straight, direct, and to the point. Mm-hmm. Because I want to fuck. I got 75. What can we make happen? Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? But I'm not stupid as to think that these bitches won't plot on you after they got what they want, or when they get in their feelings, or when they say, "Are you fucking the bondsman?" Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. When these niggas start these shaming tactics with them because I'm sliding dick to them, now all of a sudden I become the bad guy because this nigga that ain't doing shit for her that made her ashamed of having to suck dick to make a little money, or have to fuck to make a little money, or having to go on camera, on video, just to pay the light bill because he wasn't giving her no money to pay the light bill. Right. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So with me, it's always, look, this is what it is, and this is how we get down. So this idea that these niggas are the ultimate form of masculinity, that's a joke to me. Mm-hmm. That's a particularly bad joke to me. It's bad comedy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we 10 years ahead of the curve. And I remember what I was going to say, man. It was real simple. Basically, once again, we big picture niggas, man, and just how we say, when we talk about Cosby, it's not because, we trying to defend Cosby because he our daddy and he our hero. It's because it's incumbent upon us to defend him because in doing that, we are defending ourselves. You know what I mean? From future, From
future fuckery?
Yeah, from future fuckery. And also with, the Pookie and Ray Ray shit, man, when we talk about that, we not talking about these cats, man, because, they fucking this or fucking that. Because once again, like you said, niggas boil everything down to pussy. Mm-hmm. We are not concerned about how much pussy they get, man. We're concerned about the fucked up culture in which these cats embody, along with the Shaquitas. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, we got tons of motherfuckers moving in and out these apartments now. Now that they done shut down the projects, man, we got all sorts of fussing and fighting. The police is over here now. These motherfuckers, these dirty-ass niggas and bitches is bringing roaches and bed bugs and shit. Man, we got kids out here running around, like throwing rocks in the parking lot, fucking people's cars. Just a whole bunch of nigga shit come with these people, man. You know what I mean? And, nigga, I'm not trying to live like that. I'm not trying to live amongst folks like that. And I should move out, but I'm cheap, and these apartments, they still pretty nice. You know what I mean? But nah, man, when we talking about the Pookies and the Ray Rays, we ain't concerned about how much pussy they get because, believe me, we get our fair share. And, bro, we 10 years ahead of the curve, and we told y'all this shit was coming, man. Back in 2008, 2009, we told y'all about how this whole situation was going to pan out. How you give these women this sort of power, man, they become tyrannical, man. You know what I mean? So, and also talking about the whole trick aspect. A lot of people think that, when you trick with a broad, man, that puts her up on a pedestal and that she thinks she's the shit when you trick with her, whatever. Let me tell y'all something, man. See, only cats that's like in the know actually know this shit, man. But a broad, actually, she would rather you not trick with her, on some fair exchange shit. She would rather you, this is where we get into, the mode 1 shit, man. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How you just be basically upfront and blunt with a bitch. Because if you go ahead and you just give her some cheese for her time, she would rather not do that. She would rather just string you along without giving you pussy, you know what I'm saying? Without getting the direct payment for the pussy.
Manipulative time wasters.
Yeah, she would rather just string you along with the promise of pussy and still get paid. Mm-hmm. So when you hit it with the cheese up front and say, ain't gonna be no manipulative time wasting here, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give you this, you gonna give me that. That really, deep down, they don't want that. They want to be able to manipulate you and string you along and just get more money out of you in the long run like that, man. You know what I'm saying? So y'all got to understand, man, the psychology of these women, man. That's why there's very few women that actually come on here and they'll actually co-sign the trick shit, man, because deep down in their soul, in the back of their head, they know that they really getting shortchanged by
tricking,
by the tricking, because they know that they can get more money out of a nigga, you know what I mean, just manipulating and time wasting,
stringing them along.
You know what I mean? Y'all don't understand how deep this rabbit hole go with this game, man. Shit. So y'all laughing at a nigga that give a broad 75 and be done with it, while you niggas is getting strung along and you getting your time wasted, and you digging in your pocket, you buying a bitch this, you taking a bitch here. You giving her this, man. You come out $500-$600 in the hole, and you still ain't even seen the pussy. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to let y'all understand that, man. There's a lot of females that kind of look down on that trick shit because they know they can get far more money out of your ass without even giving you pussy. Just the promise of giving you the pussy, they can get more money out your ass doing that.
But and then also there's the angle that a lot of pimps won't tell you.
Right.
Is that a lot of women are conflicted about tricking.
Right.
There's a lot of women have a residual guilt. They have a very, very deep residual guilt about their sexuality at a given time. Some women enjoy the power that they think that tricking brings them until they become a slave to having to trick to survive.
Right.
Now, what did I say? On one hand, they like being able, because they think they're getting over on a nigga by giving them a little pussy, because they compartmentalize. Well, I didn't enjoy it, and I got this money for just doing this. I got all this I got thousands of dollars out of this nigga just for doing this. Mm-hmm. But then there's this deep part of them. While they may not necessarily be monogamous, there's this deep part of them that is, in some ways, revolted of having. They're revolted by the prospect of having to sell their bodies. Mm-hmm. Because some women, and I had to learn that some women are deeply conflicted about. On the other hand, they like the temporary power it gives them. On the other hand, they hate being a slave to that hustle.
Right.
They hate having to go suck some nigga or fuck some nigga that they don't want in order to get a bill paid. Mm-hmm. You see, and that's one thing that I had to learn. And that boils over into all that residual hatred. That boils over. That's why they want to set you up. Mm-hmm. That's why they want to go and snitch you off to the police. That's why they want to get you robbed. That's why they want to get you killed, because they're trying to alleviate that guilt that they feel and having to sell their bodies to survive. On one instance, it gives them a degree of pride. On another instance, it gives them a degree of shame, you see. Mm-hmm. So it's not that they're wholly getting over by tricking with you. It's a trade. It's what we call it. It's a fair exchange. But you holding their feet to the fire. That's the part. That's the part that they don't like. When you impose rules and regulations. Okay, well, why can't you just be a nice little simp and let me string you along and get this money? Just like what the bitch did on Idiocracy. When the nigga was paying her, she was like, come back tomorrow. He was like, come back tomorrow. He's when I finally utilize you, you gonna be paying me. She's like, come back tomorrow. So a lot of bitches would like to be able to do that to men. But when you tell them up front, no, you're not going to get away with that. This is going to be a real exchange. At that point, the power dynamic switches. Because now they realize that you're cognizant of what you possess in the bargaining agreement. Where you are, you become the superior in the bargaining agreement of sex for money. And that's something that a lot of the alpha niggas don't talk about either. Why? Because a lot of times, a lot of them don't have any money.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And a lot of bitches know they dependent on money. So I see very few women on our podcast talking about the tricking. I don't see Matter of fact, I haven't seen but like 2.
Right.
And they're never on our tricking podcast.
Right.
They're on our political podcast.
Right.
They avoid us like an HIV test when we start talking about tricking. But if we're talking about politics, they will show up. Another point I wanted to make, they said, well, Bill Cosby's not your daddy. No, he's not my daddy, but Bill Cosby is a hero to me, and here's why.
Right.
Because he started from nothing. He didn't even have a GED. He started from nothing, and then he got honorary degrees. He came from nothing, and he ascended to the heights. And not only did he do that, his politics was black in spite of you short memory niggas out there. Bill Cosby has given more money to black causes. I ain't talking about to liberal causes. I'm talking about to black causes. Bill Cosby has given more money to black causes than any celebrity alive. No one has ever given a university $20 million.
Right.
Well, okay. A black university, $20 million. Dr. Dre gave UCLA $35 million. Bill Cosby gave Spelman $20 million. And here's how fucking petty they were. Oh, they didn't want to associate with him no more, but they didn't give him that goddamn money back.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So Bill Cosby made some boss moves with his cash, and a lot of niggas are hesitant to get, when people were running from Betty Shabazz when Malcolm X got killed. They were running from her. Bill Cosby did a benefit at the Apollo Theater to raise money for her and her children when most people in Hollywood didn't want to be associated with her, with the exception of the Portiers, Ruby Dee, and her husband. You know, I forget his name. Ossie Davis.
Right.
Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee and the Portiers, they were the only ones that wanted to be associated with him. Most of them niggas ran from him, but Bill Cosby raised money and made it known that he was raising money for Malcolm X's family. So, you know, y'all niggas can miss me with all that, well, he's a coon and, you know, he's, you know, tap dancing for butter biscuits and, you know, he's in the boule and stupid nigga shit. He's in the boule and, you know, he's trying to identify with whites. No, fuck that. He said you niggas are scandalous. He said that your culture is dysfunctional, and he was 100% right. That culture is dysfunctional. It's dysfunctional as fuck. And if that had anything to do with you championing this lynch mob against him, then you're not a nigga who I want to associate with. You're not a nigga who I want to talk to. You're not a nigga who I want to be involved with in any arena.
Like, will a real coon stand up?
Will the real coons please stand up? I don't want you in my. I don't want you nowhere around me because stupidity is dangerous.
Man.
And if stupidity is dangerous, you are a fucking landmine. I don't want you anywhere near me. So Bill Cosby is my hero. And besides that, even if you look at the evidence in this case, there was no evidence. Even Boyce Watkins, after talking all that shit initially, came back and did a recent podcast and said, why is there no evidence in the Cosby case? There's no evidence in the Cosby case, nigga, because the fix is in. It should be fairly obvious. Just like it was in when you was talking all that other shit, when you was talking all that yin-yang 2 years ago. That's why there's no evidence in, because they finna get ready to railroad this nigga. And when you getting ready to railroad somebody, you don't need evidence, because it's not about evidence. I'm finna get over on this motherfucker for a specific purpose. I'm bringing down this nigga for a specific purpose. For profit, privilege, and power. That's what this is about. It's not about justice. It's about profit, privilege, and power. And District Attorney Kevin Steele made his bones on the body of Bill Cosby. It's as simple as that. So, you know, like I tell you, you know, look, get it on film. If you don't know how to do it, I suggest you go to MacCity.com and take lessons. Get it on film. Get it on film. And follow some of those lessons. See, it's not just porn. It's lessons. You see, the scribbling on the face, that's a lesson. That's a lesson that you can learn from.
Man, I hate to see if I had to go to court for that. How to explain that shit. Like, why did you draw, like, expletives and insults on that woman's face?
Flip that around. Flip that around and she's on the stand. You actually allowed him, why did you allow him to write Big Mike's bitch on your titty? And why did he draw an arrow to your ass? And why are there videos with stuff on your titties like I love fat boys? Why is that written on your... Did you consent to that? See, that's the shit that they don't want to have to testify to in a court of law. That's the shit that will protect you. That's the dirt. That's the bullet you keep in the chamber. So when these bitches get out of line, remember now, I'm going to show this. I got your pictures when you were putting in work when you were pregnant. You don't want your baby daddy seeing this because they get internet even in the penitentiary. There are computers in the penitentiary. You don't want this out. See, there's a lesson. You can learn something from every aspect of life, even if it's a negative experience. So that stuff that you see on that website, those are lessons. Those are lessons in power. What did the man say? This is a study of the acquisition of power. That's what's on the site. This is a study of power. So if a woman will consent to getting Big Mike's bitch written on her, if she will consent to I love fat boys, fuck me here, and an arrow going to her asshole, if she will consent to let a nigga stick a candle in her ass on her birthday and light it while it's in her ass, that is a lesson of power.
I'm going to hell, man.
That is a lesson.
I'm going to hell.
That's a lesson in power.
Oh, I was off the chain, man. I don't believe half the shit I did, man.
That's
I
a
don't believe
lesson,
it, boy.
And look at the power of it. A bitch, they knock on her window. They fighting. She get up, go outside, come back, fuck, and get nuts skeeted in her face. Who's going to want to explain that in a court of law? How you going to survive cross-examination with something like that on record? How do you get out of that? How do you explain that? Well, clearly, Well, clearly, you weren't intoxicated when you did this, were you?
Right.
You look kind of sober. You were sober enough to go out there and fight. So you were sober enough to come back and have consensual sex with this man. You see? And again, those videotapes, that shit, having that material is another way of keeping that fuckery and all that guilt and resentment at bay, because they know that if they cross the line, all that shit got to come in, along with the model releases.
Right.
All that shit, at 2 years worth of material, nobody's seen, even when you pregnant. You see what I'm saying? All that shit has to come in now. All that has to be shown. So now they thinking twice before they make that move. So I say that you guys should be looking at the website, taking lessons. Don't just look at it for the bitches. Look at it for the lessons. Look at it for what it teaches you about power. Because to this day, it's been over 10 years later? Over 10 years later?
What do you mean? Since
the website?
Nah, man, it's going on 15 years.
15 years. Yeah. Not one criminal case. A bunch of fucking threats, but not one criminal case. Not even a lawsuit. There's been threats.
Yeah.
You know. And what's that you always say? I don't negotiate with terrorists.
I don't negotiate with terrorists.
And what this does, now, another piece on this Cosby incident.
Right.
You know, they said he's been convicted of 3 counts. That's 10 years per count. And here's what they said. They said that the judge is also allowed to take into consideration the conduct with the other bitches that he wasn't even charged for.
Stuff that ain't even vetted to be true.
Stuff that it hasn't even been determined to be true. He's allowed to take that into consideration when he sentences Mr. Cosby. He is allowed to punish this man for something he hadn't even been tried for. Now, if that isn't a due process violation, I don't know what is.
Man.
But this is what they getting ready, or this is what they can do to Mr. Cosby.
Shit, man.
This is what some shit that he hadn't even been tried. He ain't even been charged with anything. He's just been accused. He ain't even been charged. But they can use this to give him a heavier sentence. You see?
Yeah.
So if you have to scribble on their faces and get it on camera. If you fuck with them, get it on camera. Get you some proof.
Get you a consent form or something.
Get you something.
It's about to get ridiculous out here, man. Like I said, the more of these situations come up, the more these women get emboldened, man. You know, the more horror that a lot of these men are going to, be faced with, man. Because one thing I know, man, you cannot give a woman, an emotional creature, that kind of power, man. They take it to the hilt, man.
Yeah, you saw that in your case. Mm-hmm. The bitch that was the magistrate down there. You know, when you give a woman that kind of power, here's what's in her psyche. Mm-hmm. She has to prove to you that she should be taken seriously.
Right.
So what she's going to do is she's going to go harder than the average white male racist. Mm-hmm. Because she wants to show that she's not soft because she's a woman. Mm-hmm. So she's going to be even more irrational than your old ass conservative, strict constructionist, conservative racist.
Right.
She going to go harder. She's going to be more illogical. She's going to be less informed because she's concerned about sending a message that she is not to be fucked with because she's a woman. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing that happens when you put a black person on the stand and he has a black defender. If you have a black judge, I'm going to tell you, nigga, and it may seem like a contradiction, but I'm going to tell you this. A black judge is the worst judge to have.
That's true.
He's the worst judge to have. Why? Because he needs to prove that he is not biased in your favor. Mm-hmm. So he's going to go out of his way to be extra fair to that white defendant or to that white plaintiff to show that he's not biased because both of you are black. And that is something I have experienced and seen on several occasions. Mm-hmm. I have witnessed that on several occasions where they're the worst. Even the so-called liberal ones, even the ones that come from the NAACP, that liberal wing, even the ones that's married to the white women, they're worse than white conservative judges. It wasn't a black judge that gave Geronimo Pratt his clemency, or not clemency, that overturned his conviction in 1971. It wasn't a black liberal judge. It was Judge Everett Dickey, a white conservative in Orange County, that overturned the conviction of this former Black Panther.
Okay.
You see, so when you're dealing with people that are in the category minorities, you might as well get ready to appeal. Get ready to appeal because they're going to fuck you. Because, again, it's not about the law. It's about politics. Law is the ultimate expression of politics. It has nothing to do with justice. It has nothing to do with law. It's all about politics.
Okay, once again, let me go ahead and talk about, why we have defended Cosby, in this fracas, man, because it's about men's rights. It's bigger than Cosby, man. You know what I mean? And men, right about now, you are in the crosshairs. Anything goes. There is no evidence needed or required to throw your ass under the bus and under the jail. Just an accusation. And as far as the Pookie and the Ray Ray shit, once again, when we speak on the Pookies and the Ray Rays, it is not sour grapes because they fucking this bitch or that bitch. We get more than our fair share of pussy. We are talking about the hood rat thug culture, which is basically detrimental to black people as a whole. So, also, go ahead, Tony.
There was, and on the level of accusations, I'm gonna give you an instance from the white female perspective. There was, I know you know that WrestleMania just happened too long ago.
Right.
Do you remember a white woman by the name of the Fabulous Moolah? The Fabulous Moolah, they didn't want her entered into the Hall of Fame because they said that Moolah was pimping bitches. She had this black wrestler named Sweet Georgia Brown, who she was pimping out to the promoters. They said she would get bitches high and send them to the promoters for them to have sex with. She was running a syndicate with these hoes in order to get these girls booked. She was taking 25 or 35% of their bookings. It was 3 or 4 years before them bitches saw any money. Moolah was a bona fide pimp. But you know what they said? They said it's just accusations. Now you got in Cosby's case, they said, well, all of these women can't be wrong. Now Moolah done pimped 35 to 40 bitches.
Right.
All of them done came out and said Moolah was pimping them bitches. She was fucking them bitches. She was getting them hooked on drugs. 30 or 40 women that came forth and said the same thing, and all of them said, "Oh, it's just accusations."
Not a peep.
Not a peep.
Crickets.
It's just crickets.
Nobody knows.
Nobody. It's just accusations. You know, but they won't give Mr. Cosby that same benefit of the doubt. You know, and I heard Anthony Brian Logan say, well, it's been accusations. It's been accusations since the Cosby Show. The fuck is an accusation? The fuck is an accusation?
And you know, that's the funny thing, man, because once again, unless you really got your boots on the ground, you don't really know what the fuck you're talking about. Just like you have been witness to my lifestyle. You have seen the videos. You have seen the paperwork. But yet you still see women coming out the woodwork saying, I did something nefarious to them.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
One bitch said, I didn't know the camera was on. Bitch, you twerking in front of the camera. What are you talking about? He filmed that without my consent. And everybody, if you look at that video, you can see her come up, turn around, and twerk in front of the camera.
And you got you got hundreds of bitches claiming that they didn't know it was being filmed.
Didn't know it was being filmed. And they talking into the camera.
They talking into the camera.
A direct conversation right into the fucking camera.
They got their signatures on paperwork.
Yep.
So when I hear stupid motherfuckers talk about all of them can't be wrong, all of them having these accusations can't be wrong, I'm like, nigga, I've lived it. I was like, all these bitches done saying all sorts of fucked up shit about me, but I got evidence to the contrary. If we ever went to court, bitch, you gonna reap the whirlwind. You gonna have a hard time unless I think I'm safe because I don't have money. If I had money like Cosby, I'd probably be in trouble. But due to the fact, if you took me to court, bitch, you ain't gonna get no money out of me. I ain't got no money as it is. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just saying, man, you know, especially just the simplistic way you looking at TV. You got one female get on TV talking about Cosby did this to me. And then you got other females who were trying to sleep their way to the top with Cosby back in the day, and it didn't happen. So they see this accusation come on TV, just like Constance did. She was like, ooh, I could do the same thing she did. So then you have a plethora of females, 10, 15, 20, come out with the exact same story. It doesn't mean that Cosby did that. It just means them bitches looked at TV and said, I'm going to do what that bitch did.
Well, I was talking to somebody about this just before I got here, and he was saying, well, you know, it's going to cost me money. I said, no, you don't understand. I said, that's going to open the floodgates because you got Gloria Allred's ass in the background. She was waiting for this verdict. So now what she's going to do is to try to extort. She's representing a total of what is alleged to be 33 victims. Okay? So now civil case, not criminal, civil cases.
Right.
Okay? So now what she's going to do is she wants to be able to extort a high settlement from this man. So if Costan could get $3 million and still get him convicted, well, maybe Lily Bernard can get 10. You know, maybe this other bitch can get 15. You know, they'll ask for some astronomical number like 50 million and see if they can get 15.
Right.
See if they can get 10. You got 33 bitches trying to get tens of millions of dollars in settlement. That's going to tap at that man's wealth very quickly. You see what I'm saying? That's the power of that judgment, because now it opens the floodgates for all the other bitches to come in and try to extort a settlement out of him. You see? So now he's in a very precarious position based up on this verdict. That's why his attorneys have to appeal. That's why his attorneys have to do something. Because if they don't, they render this man vulnerable to being lynched in courts all across the country. You see. So it's just like I was listening to, you remember Tony Atlas?
Yeah.
Tony Atlas, he was talking about how it was wide open, how them hoes was all wild. He said how they would have parties. He said that the wrestlers would be sitting there, be two bitches in there fucking and shit. And the niggas sitting there, the goddamn wrestlers sitting there with a beer in one hand, their dick in the other, waiting for their turn. He said, well, two things stopped that. He said, one, AIDS and herpes. He said, and two, civil suits came down. Wow. Bitches start hustling them with paternity scams. Bitches start hustling them with rape scams and rape accusations. He said, so Vince McMahon cut that shit out. He would not allow that to go on in the WWF when he became, because he got stung a couple of times behind Pat Patterson's gay ass. Okay. But he cut that shit out because he got tired of paying settlements to bitches that were running paternity scams or bitches that were running sex. He raped me. The Me Too shit. Right. Bitches been doing that Me Too shit, but now it's mainstream.
Mass media or social media got it popping.
Exactly. So he got sick of and he instituted rules with these dudes. And look, he made them sign. Look, if you get caught in one of these scandals, that's on you. You, and that's why he started designating them as independent. They've been designated as independent contractors. They always have been. But Vince McMahon will put these little clauses in their contracts that says that they were liable for whatever they did, and if he had to pay for any of that, he would take that from their money that they made when they were wrestling in the arenas. Wow. So a lot of them goddamn wrestlers said, it ain't worth this. Wow. You see what I'm saying? It ain't worth this. So he had to cut that down. But again, in Mr. Cosby's case, you got all these fucking vultures with people that he has never been charged for. All these victims and these cases that he has never been formally arraigned on, that he's never been charged with. Now these women can come out and extort a settlement from this man just based on this verdict. And again, if you don't think that you can be vulnerable to something like this, and if you don't have his money, the results are going to be far less worse. Because you're not going to be out here to a settlement. They're going to throw your ass in jail. You're not going to have the money to sit here and bargain with a Gloria Allred or any of these other liberal feminist attorneys. Your ass is going to prison.
And I find it interesting, man. This kind of fits the narrative of how we was always talking about how he was going to try and buy NBC. And one of the main things that the oligarchs were trying to do, they try and siphon off his money. You know what I mean? So they would introduce him to a situation where he would have to spend all of his money in litigation and in courts, where you would basically render him impotent, where he has no more power because he spent all of his money, trying to defend himself from these allegations, man. You know what I mean? And also it just follows the narrative of your Princes and your Michael Jacksons, how there's very few black multimillionaires or billionaires because they have an untimely demise or somehow their money gets siphoned off miraculously through some sort of scandal or whatever, man. It always happens, like that. I don't think any black women. I think more so black men. I don't know.
Well, you have like a couple of guys that are billionaires, but here's the real deal. If you have a new entrenched class of wealth, they will be able to challenge the status quo for power. Right. That's what they don't want. Right. They don't mind you getting a lot of money and living in Teaneck, New Jersey, like Jay-Z and Chris Rock and Mary J. Blige. Yeah. They don't mind you getting money and getting these really beautiful homes in these really affluent neighborhoods, and you sending your kids to private school. They don't mind that. They don't have an issue with that. But when you start thinking that if you're going to acquire money, if you're going to accumulate wealth, and you're going to buy politicians, if they think you're going to accumulate wealth so that you change the disparate sentencing in crack and cocaine, so you affect their prison industrial complex, oh no, that's a problem. If you're going to accumulate or acquire wealth so that you can challenge their control of the airwaves,
that's a no-no.
That's a no-no. If you think that you're going to use your wealth to gain power in any meaningful way that will change who is running and ruling this society, you got another thought coming to you. So they were not going to let Prince have that kind of money so that he could, because you remember now, he wrote slave on his forehead. He was in open rebellion against the record industry. You see, his thing, the Prince and the revolution, he wanted a revolution. He wanted to topple the people that were the ruling oligarchs of the recording. Same thing with Michael Jackson. You see, when he got Paul McCartney and the Beatles catalog,
man,
They was hot about that.
And they said, well, he owed money. Well, he going to go out on tour and make the money, so we can't use debt. We can't imprison him in debt. We can't get him that way. And he got the catalogs, and if he come in, and he was giving Sly Stone back his music. He gave Little Richard back his music and his man. Oh, hell no.
Right.
Hell no. You see, if you're going to use your wealth to transform the dynamics of power in this society, they can't have that. So when he started talking about buying in, no, because that kind of power, that's the power to, you can sanction wars if you can control people's minds. You can have people going to war on lies. The power to control what people think and see. That is the essence of power. The ability to define phenomenon and make it act in a desired manner. That is a functional definition of power. And when you start talking about accumulating wealth to challenge that, that's a no-no. You're not going to.
All right, man. Well, we run along on this joint, man. I think that this was a treat for the players, man, because we've been gone for a while. And I just like to say that, man, look, bruh, once again, the hunt is on. And like when we talking about Bill Cosby, we talking about men's rights overall. And when we talk about the Pookie and the Ray Ray, man, we talking about hood rat thug culture, which is detrimental, you know what I mean, to us as a whole. And man, I just like to give shout outs to all my other players, man. Vector, shout out to my boy Issa Ali. I want to give shout outs to Goku Son. Want to give shout outs
Brother
to
Cornelius,
Rick Nasty. Who else we got?
Willie McKee.
Minister of Love. Who we got? Oh, yeah, of course, O'Shea. Hey, I'm still waiting on my plaque, nigga. Right. Waiting on my plaque.
Allen got a plaque. We want one too, nigga.
Man, fuck Allen. Fuck Allen Roger Curry. That nigga ain't shit. You know, that nigga ain't shit, man. Motherfucker always talking about, you know, his balls, man. I'm trying to tell you, boy, so I'm just want to tell you.
Love rubbing his balls in niggas' faces.
Yeah, we doing our thing over here. Sorry, fellas, I've been, like I said, concentrating on other things, real world shit, man. And also, my computer been fucking up, man. I got to reformat this bitch, man. It's been crashing on me. So, I don't know, man. Tony, you got anything else to say, man, before we bounce, man? You want to put the capstone on the pyramid, pimp?
You're not safe anymore. No one is safe anymore. You're going to have to protect yourself, and I ain't talking about with a rubber. You're going to have to get the shit on film. You are at risk now. If you're a man of, this is who I'm talking to. If you're a man of means, to all my power trick brothers, you are in danger. You are in danger now. That ruling has made the world less safe for you. So you're going to have to protect yourself. If you have the money to go abroad, you're going to have to stay abroad because you damn sure can't bring her back here.
For real.
Okay? So if you got the fuck in this country, get it on tape.
It's crazy, man.
If you got the fuck in the United States of America, Pence is even talking about he ain't taking no pride. And you know I don't generally rock with the establishment, especially Republican establishment, not Democrat establishment either.
Right.
But especially reactionary conservative Republicans. No, I don't rock with him. But I agree with that motherfucker. He said he ain't taking no private meetings with a woman. None. He ain't taking no private meetings with a woman. He ain't meeting with one without his wife. That means there will be no boardroom dealings in private. There will be nothing in private. So that's how deep that it's gotten now. And so I don't ordinarily agree with reactionaries. Right. But in this aspect, you would be wise to follow that formula. If you're going to trick on these hoes, turn the camera on.
You're going to do anything with them.
Turn the camera on. Turn the camera on. Have it on from the time they get there to the time. And make sure, like on Mac City, it's date and time stamp. Make sure it's date and time stamp. Man. So that everybody will know when and where this took place. Protect yourself. And I ain't talking about with a condom. Protect yourself. Wow. Powerandstrategy.com. Be on the lookout for new articles. Like, share, and subscribe to the mailing list and to the YouTube channel. If you are so inclined, you can also become a patron at Power of Strategies. Check for my article on the Negro Manosphere. I'm going to have to write another article on Cosby because I wrote one last week.
Right.
I'm going to write an updated article for next Tuesday. Check out the upcoming articles on the Negro Manosphere, powerstrategy.com. And as always, tune in here at Mac City, because just because we're around, it don't mean we're dead.
We ain't dead,
We ain't
goddamn.
dead.
I'm still alive. Shit, I'm trying to tell you, I'm still alive. All right, man. Once again, I gotta keep reiterating this. When we talk about Pookie and Ray Ray, we are not giving two shits about who they fucking.
No.
God damn, boy.
less.
Niggas is always boiling down shit to pussy, man. We don't give two shits of, man, we fuck Pookie and Ray Ray's bitches all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
For 75.
For 75. While that nigga over there donating blood and, you know, trying to keep his bitch afloat, man.
Stealing.
He's stealing.
Going to prison.
Going to prison for the bitch. Shit, man. Hey, the game is so much deeper than y'all know, man. We come out winning in this shit, in this game so goddamn much. That's why we ain't giving two shits about who these niggas fucking, man. You know what I mean? Because we fuck stay bitches all the time. All the time, man. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, man, the Fat Mac, Big Mike, Almighty Triple XL, coming at y'all live and direct from MacCity.com and PowerandStrategy.com, and we out.
We out. We out.